How do you explain when things don't go as we assume? Or better, how do you explain when others are able to achieve things that seem to defy all of the assumptions? For example, why is Apple so innovative? Year after year after year after year, they're more innovative than all their competition. And yet, they're just a computer company. They're just like everyone else. They have the same access to the same talent, the same agencies, the same consultants, the same media. Then why is it that they seem to have something different? Why is it that Martin Luther King led the civil rights movement? He wasn't the only man who suffered in a pre-civil rights America, and he certainly wasn't the only great orator of the day. Why him? And why is it that the Wright brothers were able to figure out controlled powered manned flight when there were certainly other teams who were better qualified, better funded, and they didn't achieve powered manned flight, and the Wright brothers beat them to it? There's something else at play here. About 3.5 years ago, I made a discovery, and this discovery profoundly changed my view on how I thought the world worked, and it even profoundly changed the way in which I operate in it. As it turns out, there's a pattern. As it turns out, all the great and inspiring leaders and organizations in the world, whether it's Apple or Martin Luther King or the Wright brothers, they all think, act, and communicate the exact same way, and it's the complete opposite to everyone else. All I did was codify it. And it's probably the world's simplest idea. I call it the golden circle. Why, how, what? This little idea explains why some organizations and some leaders are able to inspire where others aren't. Let me define the terms really quickly. Every single person, every single organization on the planet knows what they do, 100%. Some know how they do it, whether you call it your differentiating value proposition or your proprietary process or your USP. But very, very few people or organizations know why they do what they do. And by why, I don't mean to make a profit. That's a result. It's always a result. By why, I mean what's your purpose? What's your cause? What's your belief? Why does your organization exist? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And why should anyone care? Well, as a result, the way we think, the way we act, the way we communicate is from the outside in. It's obvious. We go from the clearest thing to the fuzziest thing. But the inspired leaders and the inspired organizations, regardless of their size, regardless of their industry, all think, act, and communicate from the inside out. Let me give you an example. I use Apple because they're easy to understand and everybody gets it. If Apple were like everyone else, a marketing message from them might sound like this. We make great computers. They're beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? Meh. And that's how most of us communicate. That's how most marketing is done, that's how most sales is done, and that's how most of us communicate interpersonally. We say what we do, we say how we're different or how we're better, and we expect some sort of behavior, a purchase, a vote, something like that. Here's our new law firm. We have the best lawyers with the biggest clients. We have, we always perform for our clients, do business with us. Here's our new car. It gets great gas mileage. It has, leather seats. Buy our car. But it's uninspiring. Here's how Apple actually communicates. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our products beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? Totally different, right? You're ready to buy a computer from me. All I did was reverse the order of the information. What it proves to us is that people don't buy what you do, people buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. This explains why every single person in this room is perfectly comfortable buying a computer from Apple. But we're also perfectly comfortable buying an MP3 player from Apple, or a phone from Apple, or a DVR from Apple. But as I said before, Apple's just a computer company. There's nothing that distinguishes them structurally from any of their competitors. Their competitors are all equally qualified to make all of these products. In fact, they tried. A few years ago, Gateway came out with flat-screen TVs. They're eminently qualified to make flat-screen TVs. They've been making flat-screen monitors for years. Nobody bought one. Dell came out with MP3 players and PDAs. And they make great quality products, and they can make perfectly well-designed products, and nobody bought one. In fact, talking about it now, we can't even imagine buying an MP3 player from Dell. Why would you buy an MP3 player from a computer company? But we do it every day. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. The goal is not to do business with everybody who needs what you have. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe.
All right. So starting with why, right? People don't care what you do, they care why you do it. Starting with why. What is our why at Service Express? And regional offices can answer too if they want. Of course, they're just now hearing that when I'm saying the what? The vision. You guys agree with that? The vision. Work with our employees to help them achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals. That's why we do what we do. Okay? How do we do it? What's that answer? 4 core objectives. Right. What else? Something I paired along with the 4 core objectives. SR5. SR5. Who said that? Great answer, Jen. SR5 and 4 core objectives. So the 4 core: employee engagement, excellent customer service, margin retention and growth, and revenue growth. We know we have to hit those 4 things. That's our goal with everything we do, is to hit those 4 core objectives with every decision that we make. All right? And as I've talked about before, sometimes for long-term planning, you're hitting 2 out of the 4 or 3 out of the 4 in the short term, but you know in the long term you're going to hit all 4, right? You get your foot in the door into a contract. It might not be the best revenue, it might not be as profitable, but it's a major account with all the best and profitable revenue we want. So we prove our service levels, and then we go after and we get the kind of equipment that we want. That's always the classic example that happens every month here at Service Express. And then our SR5, scorecards, ROIs, and 515s, tracking what we do. How do we know what works if we don't track it? If we're out there just doing work all day and getting the results, but we're not tracking it, we're not graphing it, we're not looking at trends, we don't have a goal. What if we don't have a goal? How do you know if you're above goal or below goal? People have been around me a long time know I am adamant that we have to have a goal for every scorecard measure. And if it's a new measure and you don't know the goal, make one up, because I know you got opinions on it. And then you start tracking it, and you say, was my opinion right or was it wrong? Was it too high? Sometimes it's too high. We adjust down. Sometimes it's too low, and we say, hey, we got to bump that up a little bit. But you don't know unless you're tracking it. So we believe in measuring everything. And this is always the weird balance. This is what I get asked a lot about. How can a company care about its people and helping them achieve their goals, yet measure everything and treat them like a number? Right? Well, if we're treating people like a number, then we're not doing our job as leaders. We're being poor leaders. But yet by tracking it, that allows us to recognize and celebrate all the achievements that we're doing. You can use number tracking to beat people up with it, or you can use it to recognize performance. And if there's below performance, you can look at it to put together action plans, training, resources, support, whatever you need to achieve those goals. Remember, years ago, somebody had joined our company, and they used to be with IBM. And we talked about the SR5, and he'd say, well, just tell me what you get bonused on and what numbers you want, and I'll put them in there. And I was just like, what? And he said, yeah, he was like, that's how it was at IBM. My manager got bonused on certain numbers, so he told us what to put in, and as long as we put in the right numbers, he took care of us. And I was like, man, that's just not my goal here. That's not the point. And the point is to track the numbers and track the right numbers and see how we're performing. If we just put in bogus numbers, we might be covering up a problem, but then we can't see it to fix it. And there's an old saying that I love, which is if you have the right people and you're not achieving your goals, chances are you have a system problem. And we've had that at Service Express. Things are systematically not correct, so we're not making it easy for people to achieve their goals. But we don't know that unless we're getting the right data put in. So that's always the balance, and that as leaders, for us is the balance of how do you care about your people and measure everything they do. The goal measurement should be a vehicle to drive towards achieving those goals. And we'll always have people, and we'll get to the turnover slide, who aren't achieving their goals, and we give them training and resources and support, and they're just not going to do it, or they won't do it, or whatever the reason is. And that just happens sometimes. All right? But that actually, by doing it this way, even makes it more clear. Usually when we get to the point of turnover, you're kind of looking at each other and both know it's just not working. As I say, there's no surprises. If we're looking at this stuff every day, every week, every month, throughout the year, annual review should just be a review. You ought to be able to write your own. If there's major surprises in your review, we got to sit down and look at that. All right, leaders, that's always your challenge. No surprises. Easier to have harder conversations throughout the year than save it up for one big hard conversation. And I've been there, and there's no scarier conversation for a leader to sit down with somebody at an annual review or whenever and think, I don't think I did a good enough job of covering this during the year. Because that goes straight on you as a leader. Because if you weren't upfront and forthright and honest and giving that feedback and we didn't give them a chance to change, you can't expect that kind of change. So we have to make sure that we're always giving everybody all the feedback. As somebody called it once, a feedback-rich environment. And it is. But the numbers I'm going to show you, hopefully, I think overwhelmingly the feedback is very positive. And when it's not, it's just about working together and figuring out why it's not and changing that. Okay? But always starting with why. Our why is always work with our employees to help them achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals. Oh yeah, and then finally, what do we do? Maintenance contracts. On-site data center, hardware maintenance. It's always the last thing I talk about. It's probably what I talk about the least throughout the company is what that we do. What we do is a vehicle for why we do it. To help people achieve their personal, professional, and financial goals. So as always, this is a great time of year for goal setting. Hopefully you've already done it. If you haven't done it, January is still a great time. Write down your goals. Share your goals. As a leadership team through the company, the first thing we look at, any new initiative, new office expansion, whatever, who has it on their goals? That's where we go to. I can't go around and ask 250 people individually if something interests them or if there's an opportunity there. I got to go to the goals. It's a great way to grab that information. And then we ask, how are they performing on their SR5? Because if you have it on your goals but you're not performing, it makes it real difficult for us to justify a new opportunity. So the way to get new opportunities at Service Express is be great at what you do currently, share what your goals are, and then when those opportunities come up, that's when the magic happens, right there. All right?